was an organization collecting bodies, paramedics.
I've never heard of it.
Well, you have no right to be having this conversation at all. What you have to do now, Piers, is go and look through all the documentation that there is and all the video evidence that there is of those paramedic people lying about burned babies and rape and babies in ovens and all the atrocity stories that came out immediately.
What about
excuse me, I haven't finished.
Do we want to get into a little bit of a Pink Floyd rock and roll education? Let's get into this, guys. Roger Waters, oh boy, where do we start? Great musician, excellent songwriter. When I was in high school, we often talk about the CDs I had in my car. It dates me a little bit. The Wall, one of my favorites, a classic.
Zach went to high school in the 70s, guys.
Yeah. No, the Sweet Emotion was from yesterday. Today's The Wall. Anyway, how can you have any pudding if you don't teach your mate? Somebody referenced that in chat earlier. Anyway, long story short, is Roger Waters always right? No. Sometimes he's wrong. He's kind of like a weird gray zone grandpa. And whenever anybody's making the case for Palestine against Piers Morgan, we're going to show it to you guys. We're going to bring it to you.
Yeah, Roger Waters is an interesting guy. Certainly a colorful character. I like Roger Waters because he really does kind of speak his mind regardless of the consequences. He's not always the best at walking on eggshells or, articulating things in the most politically correct fashion, I would say. But for the most part, I really do think his heart is in the right place. I think he really cares about stopping war and bringing about peace. So I'm excited to watch these clips.
But that doesn't change the fact that 364 Israeli civilians and other nationalities were killed that day at a music festival. And when Bono sings a song about them and pays a tribute to them, you attack him.
They said to me, "Don't raise your voice. You know what he's like." And I said, "Yeah, I do."
What am I like?
See, he's like that. All right. This is a complete false equivalence.
I'm not making a false equivalence.
He's interrupting again.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to the camera.
He's so old.
The state of Israel is committing genocide on a whole people. Okay? Some of the people in the prison where the genocide is being committed resisted the genocide on October the 7th. And some people in Israel were killed. And I feel for them and their families. But let's not forget where all this started. It started in May. I believe it was May. May even have been the 15th of May, 1948, at the Nakba. It's one set of people trying to steal a whole land from another set of people.
All right. And we have one more clip, if you want to prep that one up. But again, the way that the thing is that you have to bring a rock star on there because he doesn't give a shit about the way that he's got his brand, he's got his delivery. I'm going to just talk right here to the American people. I'm going to look through the telly right at you and I'm going to give you a little bit of truth. And it's like, okay, but that's the kind of energy you have to bring to Piers Morgan because he's so taken aback by the fact that he just pretends he's not there. He's so unmoved by any sort of societal norm at this point after 50 years of being extremely internationally famous that he's just like, I'm going to pretend I'm not even acknowledging him right now. Yeah. I'm talking to you at home and I'm telling you on the 15th of 1948, May 15th of 1948, that's where this all began, And we can play this next clip that we've got queued up over here.
Yeah, I thought that was a good clip too, because, like I said, Roger Waters, he's not always the most politically correct guy. It's not, exactly considered polite or whatever. It's most people, when they're asked about October 7th, all they say is, I condemn it. It was horrible. It was a disgrace. It was disgusting. It was barbaric. It was terrorism. That's all the analysis that you're really allowed to give. Roger Waters is like, no, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be
Norm
honest.
Finkelstein.
Yeah, he gives more of a Norm Finkelstein answer where he's like, yeah, like, obviously I feel terrible for the innocent people that died on that day, of course, but we're also not just going to discuss October 7th like it happened in a void or a vacuum. Like all of a sudden a bunch of Muslims just got together and said, hey, you know what we should do today? Let's kill a bunch of Israelis. Let's just slaughter them for the hell of it. Like, that's kind of how it's presented by a lot of people, specifically Zionists in the media. And I do appreciate people like Roger Waters, even if it's kind of uncomfortable, coming out there and saying, like, these people are being genocided. Even before October 7th and everything we've seen since October 7th. It's kind of been the Israeli policy towards Palestinian people is a genocidal policy. It might not have been straight up genocide in a successful sense, but the policy has always been genocidal. The goal has always been ethnic cleansing. And yeah, when you subjugate an entire population of people to that extent and rob them of all of their dignity and human rights, the uncomfortable thing is that they are going to revolt. They're going to resist. They're going to fight back violently.
Yeah, Gavin and I aren't shedding any tears for the French that lost their lives in the Haitian Revolution.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it got ugly during slave revolts, for example. You don't think some of the innocent family members of slave owners
movie about the Nat Turner guy?
Yeah, exactly. The birth of the nation.
His story was based, just the movie.
Right, right. And it's the same kind of thing. And again, it's complex because I'm not sitting here excusing what happened. I'm not sitting here saying that, from a pacifist leftist perspective, it was the right course of action. But I'm also not someone who's, could even imagine being in that situation, experiencing that level of subjugation and oppression. So obviously it's not how I would resist, but I mean, I could never even imagine being in the position that these people are. So of course it's complex. And of course, Hamas is not pure, perfect group interested in peace. They have corrupting influences. They have a lot of shit going on and a radical Islamic ideology that probably motivates them as well. So it is admittedly incredibly complex, probably more complex than, you can easily just get into with a little back and forth with Piers Morgan on television or whatever. But I do appreciate Roger Waters cutting through the noise a little bit, actually daring to be honest and try to discuss the context in which this event took place, the context which so many people omit conveniently to make the pro-war point.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little more spicy. Everybody, we can go ahead and play this clip if you want to throw it into full screen. Roger Waters again. The psychology of the rock star is one that I just love to study and think about, and it's so brilliantly presented here. He's not taking any shit, and when the camera's on him, it's his fucking time to shine. Don't fucking step in my spotlight. Anyway,
yeah, let's take a look, guys. This is pretty funny. Piers Morgan getting called out.
I know you believe nonsense that you're told by Zaka and other people who made up tons of lies about October.
Who's Zaka? Sorry.
Oh, don't be silly.
Who is that? Who are you talking about?
You are kidding now.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Zaka, it was.
And I just want everybody to know really quickly before we go on who Zaka is. We've heard there's been a lot of reporting. I imagine that Rogers has Roger Waters, excuse me, not Rogers, LOL, has been reading like the Gray Zone and shit like that. Here's an article from the Intercept that I think it kind of lays out exactly what he's referencing because he's 100% right. American media keep citing Zaka, though its October 7th atrocity stories are discredited in Israel, meaning that everybody who watches Hebrew news already knows that this shit is fake, right? So Yossi Landu is the head of operations for the southern region at Zaka, an Israeli search and rescue organization. They basically go on to reveal all the lies that were told, the butchered mother and fetus, the babies in the oven, all that kind of stuff that was debunked, the mass rape stories, all that a lot of that came from Zaka. And a lot of people believed that, without any explanation at all. And now only for it to come out and have been almost entirely debunked.
Yeah, check out the Intercept article about that Zach just threw up. I think it goes through a lot of the, details in depth.
Yeah, and they have follow-up articles. Jeremy Scahill wrote specifically about the mass rape hoaxes. They had another reporter that called every single rape crisis center in Tel Aviv the day of to ask for records on the day of 10/7. They couldn't provide any. So a lot of stuff there to unpack if you're unfamiliar with it. But I just wanted everybody to have the nuts and bolts. If you're like, oh, is Roger Waters just saying crazy shit? No, that's actually legit, and he was pulling it from his ass, which I respect. That was a good pull.
It was an organization collecting bodies, paramedics.
I've never heard of it.
Well, you have no right to be having this conversation at all. What you have to do now, Piers, is go and look through all the documentation that there is and all the video evidence that there is of those paramedic people lying about burned babies and rape and babies in ovens and all the atrocity stories that came out immediately.
What about
after, excuse me, I haven't finished. Immediately after October the 7th, that gave impetus to the idea somehow that to commit genocide on the people of Gaza would be a reasonable defense against all those atrocities, which is the story that you, among others, have tried to sell to your audience.
No, I haven't.
I'll
just try to get to the
I'm
facts.
sorry. I apologize for accusing you.
Do you believe?
Well,
they try to get to the facts, even though I don't know what the Zaka is you just referenced. What educate me, please. What's going on?
Yeah, right. Do you condemn Hamas? Have you had Hamas?
I know.
Pretty crazy. Oh, I wish we could react to more of this. I only pulled a couple clips of it. But anyway, if you're interested in more, go ahead and check out the entire Roger Waters appearance.
It's pretty long. I think it was like a whole hour.
Yeah. And the one thing I always will give to Piers is that he has those people on that he disagrees with. A lot of people in mainstream media, they would never have on somebody like Roger Waters. They would never have somebody on whose politics kind of aligns with us, like a Hassan Piker on or a Cenk Uygur on this specific narrow issue, though we're going to talk about our mammoth disagreements with Cenk more in a second. Yeah. He at least will host those people. And I think it makes his show so much better. I think that, having people on, even when he has people on who I think are foul and ridiculously unqualified to give any kind of insider commentary on an issue, I'm appreciative of the fact that those people get let on, because I think it also makes it easier for somebody like Norm Finkelstein or Cenk Uygur to go on and be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You are a fool. If Abby Martin goes on there, she's able to effectively dismantle these individuals, and he puts it up on a network broadcast and he also doesn't fuck with people who react to it. So that's what I give to Piers Morgan, even though on 99% of issues he comes across like an absolute idiot. So thank you, Piers.
Yeah, shout out to Piers Morgan for hosting some decent conversations throughout this entire crisis. He really has been one of the only mainstream voices to actually invite on a genuinely diverse array of panelists, and not, like Zach said, not just people that agree with us, but people from literally both sides on both extremes, people that usually aren't let on the mainstream platforms like CNN or Fox News, whatever.